The dandelion growing in your lawn right now has a scientific name, and that name is Taraxacum officinale. That second word is not decoration. In 1735, when Carl Linnaeus built the naming system that botany still uses today, he handed out the word officinale to a specific set of plants. It comes from officina, which was the storeroom in a medieval monastery where the monks kept their medicines. Dried herbs, tinctures, extracts. The place you went when somebody was sick. So the plant you are paying to kill is formally, botanically named after the pharmacy shelf. There are 12 of these growing in the average American yard, not obscure things you have to hike for. 12 plants that most of you can find in the next 10 minutes, that were stocked by apothecaries and listed in medical texts for centuries, and that we now treat as something to be sprayed. I am going to give you all 12, and for each one I will tell you exactly how to identify it, so this is useful and not just interesting. But one of these 12 has a lookalike that can kill you. Not make you sick, kill you. It is a plant that grows in the same conditions, in the same season, in the same kind of ground, and people confuse the two every single year. When we get to it, I will tell you the 3 checks that separate them, and I would rather you watch that part than skip it. First, let me be straight with you about what this video is. This is history. I am telling you what these plants were used for, by whom, and when. I am not telling you to treat anything with them, and I am not a doctor. Some of these have real pharmacology behind them, and some were used for centuries on the strength of tradition alone. Those are different things, and I will say which is which. Also, and this matters more than any of it, do not harvest anything from a lawn that has been treated, from a roadside, or from anywhere a dog walks. Everything in this video assumes clean ground. Number 1. Dandelion. You already know what it looks like, but here is the check that separates it from the imposters. A true dandelion has one flower on one hollow stem, and that stem is smooth, with no branches and no hairs. Snap it and it runs milky white sap. The leaves are deeply toothed, and all of them come straight out of the ground in a rosette, never off the stem. The plant that fools people is cat's ear. Its leaves are noticeably hairy, and its stem is solid and branches into more than one flower. Harmless, just not the same plant. Dandelion was in the pharmacopoeias of Europe and Arabia as a bitter tonic, mostly aimed at digestion and the liver, and the whole plant was used. The root was roasted. And the mechanism there is not mysterious. Bitter compounds on the tongue trigger digestive secretion that is measurable, and it is why bitters exist at all. The next one is the plant that followed European settlers across the continent so reliably that native tribes gave it a name for it. Number 2. Broadleaf plantain. Look for a flat rosette of oval leaves lying almost against the ground, and then look closely at a leaf. You will see 5 to 7 veins running the length of it, parallel, from base to tip. That is unusual. Most broadleaves have a branching net of veins. These run in lines like a blade of grass. Out of the center comes a thin, bare stalk with a narrow green seed spike on top that people describe as a rat tail. There is a narrow-leaved version too, ribwort, with the same parallel veins on a long, slim leaf. The Anglo-Saxons named it one of their 9 sacred herbs. Across Europe, and later across North America, it was the standard poultice plant for cuts, stings, and scrapes, applied crushed and directly. It picked up the nickname Nature's Bandage, and it earned it in fields where nothing else was available. Number 3 is the one where the Latin name is not just a hint. It is a set of instructions. Number 3. Self-heal. Also called heal-all, woundwort, and carpenter's herb. Prunella vulgaris. It is a low sprawling plant that survives mowing, which is why so many of you have it and have never looked at it. Roll the stem between your fingers. It is square, not round, because it belongs to the mint family. Leaves grow in opposite pairs. The flower is the giveaway, a dense stubby purple spike about the size of your thumb tip, made of small two-lipped flowers packed tight. The English herbalist John Gerard wrote in 1597 that there was no better wound herb in the world. It was used across Europe, North America, and China independently, mostly on cuts, burns, boils, and sore throats. That genus name, prunella, traces back to a German word for a severe throat inflammation. When three separate continents reach for the same small plant for the same complaint, that is worth noticing. Number 4 is the one you have to be careful with. This is the one I promised you. Number 4. Yarrow. Achillea millefolium, named for Achilles, who in the myth used it on his soldiers' wounds at Troy. Its Old English name was soldier's woundwort. Crushed and pressed onto a wound, it's minor bleeding, and modern analysis has identified compounds in it with genuine hemostatic activity. This is one where the tradition and the chemistry line up. Now the part that matters. Yarrow has finely divided feathery leaves and a flat-topped cluster of small white flowers. Poison hemlock also has finely divided feathery leaves and a cluster of small white flowers. It grows in the same disturbed ground, and it will kill an adult. 3 checks, and you do all 3. Check the stem. Yarrow's stem is grooved, ridged along its length, and covered in fine woolly hairs. Poison hemlock's stem is completely smooth, hairless, and marked with purple blotches or streaks. If you see purple splotches on a smooth stem, walk away. Check the smell. Crush a leaf. Yarrow smells sweet, sharp, herbal, slightly spicy, and once you have smelled it, you will not forget it. Poison hemlock smells foul and musty. People describe it as mousy. Check the height and the flower shape. Yarrow is usually knee-high with a tight, flat cluster. Poison hemlock often stands taller than a person, and its flowers spread in loose, open umbels like a wild carrot. Water hemlock is a separate plant, and it is even more toxic. Same family, same white flowers. If you are not certain, you are not certain. That is the whole rule. Nothing on this list is worth a mistake. Number 5 is the one whose stem tells you what it is if you know where to look. Number 5. Chickweed. Small, sprawling, bright green, with little white star flowers. Each flower looks like it has 10 petals, but it has 5. Each one splits so deeply down the middle that it reads as 2. Here is the definitive identification, and it is one of my favorite things in botany. Look at the stem with a magnifier or good light, and you will see a single line of fine hairs running along one side only. At each pair of leaves, that line switches to the other side. One line, alternating sides. Nothing else does that. It was used across Europe as a cooling poultice for irritated skin and eaten as an early spring green when nothing else was up. It is mild, it tastes like corn silk, and it is one of the safest plants on this list. Number 6 comes up in the ugliest, hottest, most neglected part of your property. Number 6. Purslane. Look in bare spots, cracks, gravel edges, anywhere hot and dry. Fat reddish stems that lie flat in a mat, and thick, smooth, succulent leaves shaped like small paddles. Snap a stem. It should be juicy and clear. One important warning. Spotted spurge grows in exactly the same places and looks similar at a glance. Snap a spurge stem and it bleeds milky white sap. Purslane never does. Milky sap means put it down. Purslane has been eaten from India to Greece to Mexico for thousands of years, and it is one of the richest leafy sources of alpha-linolenic acid, an omega-3 fatty acid. I will say the honest part too, because you will hear this claim wildly overstated. That is plant form omega-3, and your body converts it to the marine forms inefficiently. It is genuinely nutritious. It is not salmon. Before I get to the last 6, one thing. Everything in this video I had to assemble from botanical references and old herbals, because almost nobody publishes the version that tells you how to actually recognize the plant in your own grass. I keep the whole property calendar in one place at backyardverdict.com, month by month, including which of these come up when. There is a code on the screen if that is easier than typing. That is the only time I will bring it up, and then we are straight back into it. Number 7. Red clover. 3 leaflets, usually with a pale chevron or crescent marking across each one, and a rounded pinkish-purple flower head made of dozens of tiny tubes. You can pull one tube out and taste the nectar at the base, which is what every child who has ever sat in a lawn already discovered. It appeared in official pharmacopoeias in both Europe and the United States, mostly aimed at coughs and skin complaints, and the dried flower heads were the part that was sold. Number 8 is the tallest thing on this list, and it once got used as a torch. Number 8. Mullein. In its first year it makes a rosette of enormous leaves, pale gray-green and covered in soft dense fuzz. They feel like felt. In its second year it sends up a single thick spike that can pass your head, packed with small yellow flowers. Its historical use was respiratory, across Europe and later in American folk medicine, with the leaves and flowers dried for coughs. And it has a second name, candlewick plant, because the dried stalk was dipped in tallow and burned as a torch. Number 9 is small. It is everywhere, and it went to war. Number 9. Shepherd's purse. Once you know this one, you will never miss it. Running up the flowering stem are small flat seed pods shaped like triangular hearts, and they look exactly like the little pouches a medieval shepherd carried. Tiny white 4-petaled flowers at the top, toothed leaves in a rosette at the base. It is in the mustard family. It was a standard styptic in European practice, used tar bleeding, and it was reached for in field medicine during the First World War, when supply of the usual preparations ran short. Number 10 is the one that will hurt you before you identify it. Number 10. Stinging nettle. Opposite pairs of deeply toothed pointed leaves on a square stem, and the whole plant covered in fine hairs that inject a mix of irritants when you brush them. You almost always identify this one by accident. Cooked or dried, the sting disappears completely. It was used across Europe as a spring tonic and a food. It is genuinely high in iron and calcium, and the fiber from the stems was spun into cloth. There are German army uniforms from the First World War made partly of nettle fiber because cotton was blockaded. Number 11 is the reason a Swiss engineer got rich. Number 11. Burdock. Huge leaves, sometimes as broad as rhubarb, coming off a coarse stem, and then the burrs. Round bristly balls that grab clothing and dog hair and will not let go. In 1841, a Swiss engineer named George de Mestral came back from a walk and looked at the burrs stuck in his dog's coat under a microscope. Every bristle ended in a tiny hook. He spent years turning that observation into a product and called it Velcro. Every hook and loop fastener you have ever used came off this weed. Its root was used as a blood purifier in European and Japanese practice, and it is still eaten as a vegetable in Japan under the name gobo. Number 12. Grows in the shady, damp corner where your grass gave up. Number 12. Wild violet. Heart-shaped leaves and small purple flowers on their own thin stalks, low to the ground, in the parts of the yard that stay damp and shaded. It is one of the most hated lawn weeds in America because it spreads by underground runners and is very hard to remove. Both the leaves and the flowers are edible, and they were a traditional spring green. The leaves carry a mucilage that softens in water, and that is why they turn up in old preparations for sore throats. So that is the 12. Dandelion, broadleaf plantain, self-heal, yarrow, chickweed, purslane, red clover, mullein, shepherd's purse, stinging nettle, burdock, and wild violet. Here is what I would actually do with this. Do not go pick anything today. Go out tomorrow morning with your phone and just find them. Photograph each one you can identify. Most of you will get 7 or 8 without much trouble, and the 2 that will surprise you are self-heal and shepherd's purse, because they have been there for years and you have looked past them. Then, if you want to go further, learn one plant properly. 1, not 12. Plantain and chickweed are the 2 I would start with. because they are unmistakable and they have no dangerous lookalikes. Yarrow I would leave until you have handled poison hemlock with somebody who already knows it. And here is the part I actually care about. Once you know the names, you cannot unsee them. You will walk out to spray a patch and recognize 4 things in it. What you do after that is your business. But you will be choosing, instead of just spraying. One last thing, and I would like to know. Go down to the comments and tell me which of these 12 you found, and what state you are in. I am asking because the mix varies enormously by region, and there is no good public picture of what is actually growing in American lawns. If you found something on this list you had been fighting for years without knowing what it was, say which one. Somebody standing in their yard tomorrow with a sprayer in their hand is going to read that before they read anything else.